A lot of people here, so no pressure, Doug, Jaden.
I'm going to stop
Uh,
watching that number increase.
Okay, we're going to start now. Welcome to the AI in the Workplace webinar. So I think the key point here is that a lot of people are talking about AI. If you go into social media, everyone's talking about it. It's a bit of a catch cry, but I felt that, and we got some feedback from some clients that there's fewer people talking about action and showing how we can practically use this in our day-to-day work lives. So we thought we'd rip open the hood and show you some practical examples that we are doing internally for the business and then also for some of the clients that we're dealing with. So we're going to go through some of the most popular use cases and there's some good reasoning behind that. This is the AI market. Just for context, you may have heard of these companies like NVIDIA and some of the other ones down below. These are more at that infrastructure level. Then we move up more to the platform layer, which hosts some of these AI models. Then we move up to the model layer, which is some of these companies you may have heard of, like OpenAI and Anthropic's Claude, etc. And then we move right to the top to the application layer. And this is the layer that mostly you'll be familiar with. There is kind of like three branches of AI. Can you run us through what these are?
AI is a bit of an encompassing term. We throw it around quite a lot, and it envelops a few different technologies. So on the left here, we have our AI assistant. This is probably what we're most familiar with. A lot of us have gone in and played with things like ChatGPT. Maybe some of us are lucky enough to have had a Copilot license assigned to us. So it's creating text for us or multimodal. So they can create text, they can create audio, some images as well.
And I'll just add, Jaden, you probably saw this in the news as well. ChatGPT just announced today that they released a browser for, I think, iOS users only at this stage, which is an agentic
Mac
browser.
OS, yeah. So it's in direct competition with something called Comet by Perplexity as well, which is an agentic-based browser.
Why are we going to talk about two models in particular today is because they're the most used models. And very interesting. I didn't know about this, about Copilot, but it uses a bit of OpenAI's models and others. And Doug, you recently spoke at Clio's conference. In fact, they're the global leader in AI within the legal industry. And Doug was invited to speak about AI security, and you did a live poll, and this is really fascinating, actually.
A near 70% of those surveyed attendees had no formal strategy.
This is an example of what we were talking about before. This is a window in my ChatGPT, so I pay for that $20 a month version. I think it's US dollars, and yeah, if you go into your settings and right here, the model improvement, it's by default sending all my data to improve the model, meaning all the things that I'm inputting into that are now public or in the public domain in some cloud server somewhere. So you have to be really careful about these settings that are generally ticked by default. If you don't have a formal data governance strategy already, we have written about this and there's a video you can watch on our website. Just go here to services and down to data governance. Speaking about costs, tell me, how much does all this cost, Doug? Because if we're trying to get this justified by internal departments to activate us internally, how much does it cost us all?
We were talking about this earlier in the week, Jaden, and you made mention of something that I wasn't aware of before. That when you're working in Copilot, for example, or any Gen AI tool, that whole message history for that kind of conversation is resubmitted every time you kind of enter a new prompt.
Yeah.
So it's
a lot of people don't realize that with Gen AI, it isn't always database driven. It will actually resubmit the entire chat from start to finish whenever you send a new message. So that gives it the full context of that chat again. And that's also quite often why when you're using these products in just their apps or their online platform, whenever you open them, you get a new chat window because it wants to clear that context and make sure you're getting the most out of your tokens.
We looked at some research around the popular use cases of AI globally. Now, this sample was from UK, US, and EU. There's about 2,000 people in this study. We're going to give you practical examples of the next four. So the most popular one after that was content generation and writing assistance, which I'm sure we've all used before. And then the documentation knowledge retrieval was another one. So we're going to show you a real example of that. And then meeting notes and transcription, really good agent that we used for some of these pre-meetings. That's actually really, really good. And then data analysis and BI as well. So we're going to show you a couple of these right now. What's the AI doing here?
Yeah. So basically just kind of threw the content for an email straight into the body there, just brain dumped it. And then I've had Copilot rewrite that entirely. So the beautiful thing about the new Outlook is, a lot of people are aware of, have used Copilot in Teams to some degree for meetings, essentially note taking. If you join late, you can ask it what you miss and get a summary of everything that's been discussed before you arrived. You can even ask it about the meeting content without interrupting the meeting organizer again, so it can kind of give you a recap. We all know about those features. But did you know that Copilot actually operates within chats and channels as well? So what you can essentially do is highlight group chats, channel chats, and then say you've gone away on leave, you've come back, you can have Copilot summarize that chat and summarize that channel content for you, so that you can catch up on what you've missed.
Wow.
And even get advice on where you've been tagged or where you've been made responsible for certain actions and things like that.
Actually, this is happening because Casey, just next to me here, who's busy in their chats. Yeah, you were just on leave as well yourself. So she's come back and she could have used this to catch up on everything that's going. And then obviously we use this ourselves. So we had a couple of meetings to figure out what to present with you all today. And then we've all used these note-taking apps. And I don't know, I've used Zoom and Gmail and Teams. I've got to use every single one of these programs. And you may have used Otter or these other sort of like AI note takers or Fireflies or whatever. And now Teams has rolled out a sort of update to this that's kind of on steroids almost, called Teams Facilitator. But
so, I mean, for those of us who have used Copilot in Excel at the moment, it's a little bit limited. It's probably the one thing they see most feedback on is how those limitations are just too difficult. But what's happening in November is they're releasing agent mode for Copilot in Excel, and that will allow it to directly work with the data that you have in your spreadsheet.
So coming to content creation. So with Casey as well, we created a bit of a post about these Microsoft AI things, and we did a blog post on the Centurion website. So you can see there a screenshot of that page. And I wanted to create a photo for this. And I know a lot of people want to create images for social media posts or blog posts or whatever, or presentations. There is a bit of a skill to it though. So you can see this picture here. I want to illustrate this Teams Facilitator agent taking notes in the background. So the prompt that I used is right there in the top left. I was using Copilot to create that. And then I wasn't really happy with that image. So I then improve my prompt, and here's the difference. That's just by adding a tiny bit more context to the prompt, the quality that you'll get back. So even though in the first one I mentioned I want this to be photorealistic, I put specifically in here, and you'll see at the bottom, I don't want this to appear like a AI generated image. And then it comes back with something that looks like an actual photo shoot, which is a way higher quality output. So I think, prompting is really important, and is something that, obviously we'll train, and there's some principles behind that. But I think one of the easiest wins for AI is just to get a bit better at prompting, and some of these small wins can have a huge outcome. Basically, Doug was saying that you can actually ask the AI what prompt to then put in to then get the AI to generate something. So like, you don't have to come up with the prompt yourself, just ask them what's the best way to prompt you, and then it will tell you, and then you just respond to that.
Yeah, if you give it the fundamental idea, it'll help you flesh that out.
And then there's custom agents as well. So again, we're going to show you some practical examples that we've done internally. So Sophia is our HR and people specialist, and she had a request and you helped her out. Can you just run us through what that was all about?
Yeah, so Soph had a whole heap of documents and things that she was trying to stay across to write documentation and policies. And we were trying to work out the best way to kind of utilize these in AI rather than just uploading them all into a chat and using it that way. We thought, well, let's create a custom agent, because that way we can actually share this out with other staff. If there's anyone else writing these, then they can utilize them. So that's what Soph has actually done, all on her own accord. So this is a custom agent inside of the Copilot app. So it's what we call no code or low code.
I'm familiar with Power BI as it's kind of a dashboarding sort of program. So I know that exists, but I didn't know there's a whole suite of Power platforms within this thing. So